Welcome to Daily Book Insight. Today, we are diving deep into a book that has genuinely changed millions of lives, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. It's really a guide to finding peace, not someday in the future, but right here, right now. And to get us started, there's a story from the book that just perfectly captures its entire message.
So, picture this. For over 30 long years, a beggar has been sitting on the exact same old box, day in and day out, asking strangers for a little spare change. You know, that box is his whole world, his one constant companion.
But then one day, a stranger walks by, and instead of dropping a coin, he points to the box and asks this really simple but kind of strange question. Hey, have you ever looked inside that box you're sitting on? The beggar just laughs. Look inside? Why would I do that? It's just an old, empty box. I've been sitting on it for decades. To him, the question is just absurd. He's so sure of what it is.
But the stranger is persistent. He says, "Just look." So finally, just to get him to leave, the beggar pries open the lid. And inside, he's just stunned. The box is overflowing with gold. A massive treasure he'd been sitting on his entire life, completely unaware.
And that story right there gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. What if we are all just like that beggar? You know, spending our whole lives looking outside ourselves for happiness and fulfillment, when we are sitting on an incredible treasure of peace and aliveness that is already inside us right now.
Okay, so if this treasure is inside us, why is it so hard to find? Well, according to Eckhart Tolle, the biggest obstacle is something we use every single second of every day, our own mind. We've kind of let our minds become these faulty masters, and that, he argues, is the real source of our suffering.
Now, Tolle isn't just speaking from theory. This comes from a place of really deep personal struggle. By the time he was 29, he was dealing with intense depression. One night it got so bad, he had this thought, I can't live with myself any longer. And that led to this incredible inner transformation. The next morning, he woke up, heard a bird chirping, and was filled with this amazing peace. He realized the self he couldn't live with, that was just the noisy, suffering identity created by his own mind.
And this is the core problem he points to. Most of us are completely unconsciously identified with that constant stream of thoughts in our head. We actually believe we are that voice, the one that's always worrying, judging, and complaining. We've mistaken the tool, our mind, for who we really are.
Tolle gives this mind-made self a name, the ego. Think of it as this false identity that's built from our personal history, our memories, all the labels we've collected, and our conditioned ways of thinking. And here's the key. The ego cannot survive in the present moment. It absolutely needs the past for its identity and the future for its fulfillment. It's always looking back with regret or forward with anxiety.
Look, the mind is an amazing tool. When you need to solve a practical problem, you pick it up, you use it, and then you put it down. You're in control. But for most of us, the mind has become the master. It runs our lives with this compulsive inner chatter that's usually repetitive and often negative. It controls you. I mean, ask yourself this. Can you find the off button for your mind? If you can't, then the mind is using you, not the other way around.
So how does the mind keep us trapped? Oh, it has some pretty clever strategies to avoid the present moment. It'll replay past events over and over, making us feel regret or nostalgia. It projects into the future, creating endless what-ifs to worry about. It's constantly judging and slapping labels on everything, which stops us from actually experiencing things as they are. It complains, it creates resistance. It's always busy, always creating problems. Because in the simple reality of the present moment, the ego has no power.
So if the mind, with its obsession with the past and future, is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's actually deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful. The way out is to find freedom in the only time that truly exists, the now.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Have you ever experienced anything outside of the now? Of course not. The past happened in a former now. The future will happen in a future now. All of life, everything, unfolds in this one single eternal moment.
And Tolle makes this really deep connection here. He says that time and mind are inseparable. The egoic mind needs what he calls psychological time, past and future, to even exist. It's always trying to escape the now because it has no control here. So when you bring your full attention to this present moment, you literally cut off the mind's fuel. The stream of thought slows down, and you can start to experience a deeper sense of stillness.
There's a wonderful little story that illustrates this perfectly. A Zen master gathers his students and asks them a very simple question.
He just looks at them and says, what is missing in this moment? So just for a second, ask yourself that right now. In this exact moment, what is truly missing?
So the students, they're racking their brains, trying to come up with some clever, profound answer. A long silence falls over the room as they're all just thinking. And in that silence, the master smiles and gives them the answer. He says, nothing is missing. The only thing that was missing a moment ago was this silence, this peace that arrived when you all stopped thinking. When you're truly present, you realize this moment is complete. It doesn't lack anything.
Okay, so this all sounds fantastic in theory, right? But how do we actually do it in our busy, chaotic lives? Let's get into some practical, actionable tools you can start using today to anchor yourself in the now.
The first and most fundamental practice is to watch the thinker. This just means starting to listen to that voice in your head as if you're an impartial witness. Watch the thoughts come and go without judging them. Just notice them. When you start doing this, something amazing happens. A new dimension of consciousness awakens. You realize, wait, if I can observe my thoughts, then I can't be my thoughts. You are the awareness behind the thoughts, and that is the beginning of real freedom.
Another powerful doorway into the now is your body. I mean, your mind can wander anywhere, but your body is always right here, right now. So try this sometime. Just feel your breath moving in and out. Then bring your attention to your hands. Can you feel that subtle energy, that aliveness inside them? Let that feeling spread through your whole body. This connects you to your inner body, and it's an incredible anchor that can pull you right back into the present, especially when you're feeling stressed out.
Now, the third tool is probably the most misunderstood one: acceptance and surrender. Let's be really clear, this does not mean being passive or just putting up with a bad situation. It is not about giving up. Surrender is the simple yet profound wisdom of letting go of your inner resistance to what is already happening. See, it's your resistance that creates most of your suffering. You're basically arguing with reality, and guess what? Reality always wins.
As Tolle puts it so beautifully, surrender is yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. And that flow of life can only ever be experienced in the now. So to surrender really just means to accept this present moment unconditionally. Accept it as if you had chosen it. And from that place of acceptance, you can then take intelligent action if you need to. But that action will come from a place of peace and clarity, not from reactive resistance.
So, what does all of this actually look like in real life? Well, let's take a look at the story of Rahul, because it's a great illustration of how applying these principles can completely transform a life filled with that all-too-familiar modern-day stress.
Rahul's life probably sounds familiar to a lot of us. It was just a constant blur. Waking up, immediately checking notifications, stressing out in traffic, feeling the pressure at the office, and then just numbing out with a screen at night. He felt like his days were just flying by, but he wasn't really living them. He was always either stuck on past mistakes or anxious about what might go wrong tomorrow.
But after a bit of a health scare, Rahul started practicing these tools. So before a huge presentation, instead of letting his anxiety spiral, he just took 3 deep, conscious breaths. His mind cleared, and he nailed it. He started putting his phone away during meals and just focused on the food. And suddenly, an everyday chore became a source of actual joy. But you know where the biggest changes happened? In his relationships.
This slide shows the change perfectly. Before, if his girlfriend said he wasn't listening, his ego would immediately get defensive, right? I'm working so hard for us. Why are you complaining? Now, he could pause, notice that reaction, and instead respond from a place of awareness. You might be right. Let me just listen. When his sister felt ignored, the old Rahul was dismissive. The new Rahul could recognize her need for connection. This shift from an ego-driven reaction to an aware response changed absolutely everything. And the results were so real. His girlfriend told him, "Today, you truly heard me." For the first time, she felt genuinely seen. His sister said almost the same thing. "That's the first time you've really listened." He started to learn that most fights aren't about who's right or wrong. They're really just opportunities for a deeper connection, but only if we can step out of our ego for a moment and just be present with the other person.
Rahul's story really shows us that this isn't some abstract idea for monks on a mountaintop. It's a truly practical way to live a saner, happier, and much more connected life. And the most important thing to remember is that your journey doesn't start tomorrow or on New Year's. It only ever starts in one moment.
So if you take one thing away, let it be this: the past is gone. The future isn't here yet. The only reality you will ever have, the only place you can find that treasure of peace and joy is right here, in this moment. Peace isn't some destination you have to reach. It's your natural state when you stop fighting the now.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Who you really are, it's not your job title, it's not your memories, it's not your anxieties about tomorrow. The essence of who you are is that timeless awareness that's observing this very moment. The only question is, are you willing to stop searching and finally meet that self right now?
If this was helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with family and friends who want to upgrade their life.